Hi, everyone. Good morning and happy Monday. We are finally in the last and final step of H10, the last thing you will complete for the humanities core. Congratulations. I know it's not as monumentous as it was originally planning, but in its own way, this is still pretty impressive considering you are finishing up your sophomore year in such a unique and somewhat chaotic situation. Anyways, so welcome. You are on my homepage. If you scroll down, you're going to click on the capstone button. This isn't necessarily a capstone. However, it worked with my button and I didn't really want to change it. So when you get to that button, you're going to be brought to the module for the project. Today is Monday the 18th. And so I'm going to introduce what this project is about and hopefully help you understand what the expectations are, starting with the directions. So in the simplest of terms, you are trying to combine what you've been working on in H10 with what you've been working on in H9. I totally lied. What you are working on in H10 history with what you are completing in H10 English. There you go. So you are going to create a quarantine vignette. And in this vignette, you are asked to answer this prompt right here. Think about your experiences during the global COVID-19 pandemic and how it has impacted your identity. Write a single vignette that highlights a moment that illustrates a realization or that highlights multiple details that capture your overall change in perception about how this pandemic has impacted you personally over the last 3 months. Now, just as a reminder, this is a pretty intense moment that you're living through, and it's important to reflect and to think about how this might impact you in the future. For example, families that lived through the Great Depression tended to leave the Great Depression with a sense of a desire to save money, never wasting food, always having emergency supplies on hand. So something that I might be thinking about is the fact that during this global pandemic, I've had multiple realizations about the fact that I would love a companion in the form and shape of a dog, as well as the fact that you can never have too many Lysol wipes on hand. Anyways, so some basic requirements for this vignette. 1, it's going to be about 200 to 500 words, short and sweet. It needs to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. You have to have clearly defined characters. Hopefully one of those characters is yourself. However, maybe you can create a vignette that has somebody else in there with you. You should have a clearly defined narrative voice or a point of view. You need to have at least 2 lit devices, okay? And then you have to identify those lit devices with footnotes and explain the use of that device. You have to show how the current pandemic is impacting your identity. And that's the really challenging and harder part about this vignette. You can't just write about a moment that you binge watch something on Netflix during the pandemic and that's about it. You need to have some kind of moment or experience that you can describe that you know is changing your identity. And all of the above elements must be indicated through footnotes in the final draft. Okay? And then at the very end, when you are done typing this up, you are going to have to read your vignette out loud into a Flipgrid and describe some of the elements of your vignette. So again, read the vignette. And after you read, you have to explain the significance of the event and how it has shaped your identity, why you reference the connection to society that you made in your vignette. So for example, you should clearly connect your moment to a broader topic of the pandemic and the modern world. Now, again, this is going to be more challenging. The vignette should be about yourself, but you should also be able to explain how this has a connection to the modern world and how this moment that you've chosen to write about is, in a sense, a example of the broader perspective of this global pandemic. And then you have to verbally explain the 2 lit devices, your diction, as well as how that diction creates a specific tone. In total, this project is worth 40 points in English and history and will go into the humanities category. The last page of this is a calendar. So if you want to know exactly what your final days in the humanities core looks like, it's right here. Today, we are introducing your project, and the thing that you have to turn in is a story map, which I will explain briefly. English, that's something you have to do tomorrow, I'm not sure. And then on Wednesday, it's a work day in my class for the vignette where you are actually going to submit a draft 1 onto my Canvas page. And then as you can see, there is no class on Monday because of Memorial Day weekend. So the next time that I see you is actually going to be on the 27th. And that's when your final draft is due on turnitin.com, as well as your presentation on Flipgrid, which will be due by Thursday at 8 p.m. I'm, of course, still going to be having office hours if you'd like additional help or support for the vignette. And hopefully this isn't something that's stressful, but more allows you to be creative and allows you to try and make those connections those skills that you've been practicing in English, as well as those more global connections you've been making for history. In case you're wondering, that final week is more of a catch-up week. So there are no new assignments that are going to be posted on that week. All right, and then if you go to next, it will bring you to the vignette rubric. Give it a second to load. There it is. I'm not going to go through this in too many details because you can, but you'll notice that we are focusing on your narrative techniques, the organization of your vignette. So again, it has that nice, well-developed conflict. I can see the characters that you're using. And then the connection to history's Unit 5 targets. So a connection to that moment of your identity, demonstrating mastery of content. And then in the Flipgrid, we're going to be looking at some presentation skills as well as the content of the presentation. Are you able to explain your lit devices? Are you able to explain your connection to this modern conflict? All right, once you're done taking a look at the rubric, go ahead and start working on today's actual assignment, which is to go onto Flipgrid and brainstorm what you might write about. So for your homework, you are going to record a video where you brainstorm how you will answer the prompt. So once again, the prompt is, what moment during the pandemic do you think you will write about in your vignette? How does this represent the larger picture of what is going on in the pandemic? Think global, national, politics, economics, race, class, gender, all of those globalization things that we touched upon during your journal project. And then you're going to go to one of these bad boys right here. Reminder, because I had a few people message me with this, do not record a video on your phone and then try and upload it to Flipgrid. It will not work. It's too large of a file. So instead, just go directly onto here. Log in with your school Google account. And then you'll be able to upload your video. I'm not going to do it, but a couple of things that you may want to consider. You could just tell me a couple of things that you're thinking of, right? This video is supposed to only be 30 minutes, 30 seconds, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds to a minute. And so you may want to say, hey, Miss C, here's a couple things I'm thinking of writing about. I'm thinking of writing about the new routine that my family is in, or one of the trivia online game nights that I played with my family. I'm also thinking about describing my process of making a specific recipe. And here's why I'm thinking about these three things and how I think that they can connect to this globalization idea. Or if you already have a really good idea, like, okay, Miss C, I'm going to be writing about this one moment when my family ran out of toilet paper. And for a solid day, everyone in my family was like really panicking because we couldn't find toilet paper. And here's how it connects to this global pandemic, right? So again, it's more of a brainstorm. It's just for me to see that you're thinking about it. The video, again, should be about 30 seconds to a minute. Doesn't have to be something long, but I do want to see that you're thinking about the prompt. specifically reminding you that you have to be able to connect your vignette to globalization and the larger pandemic. So it can't just be about like only a specific moment about yourself. You have to be able to make a broader connection to it. Anyways, when you are done with that, if you want to go ahead and get started on Wednesday's work, if you think that you are ready for it, again, Wednesday's work is going to be just to start working on the draft of the vignette and actually uploading the draft by May 21st at 8 p.m. right here. And for you guys, the button shows like right up here. It literally says submit here. Anyways, I hope you're all doing well. Come and see me during office hours if you have any questions, or of course, shoot me an email. Other than that, have a wonderful day.